So hello everyone. Yes, so indeed that's the subject of this speech, Qt and Android. So I will not repeat my name. Indeed, I'm not Italian, so we are based in France. I didn't know embedded, and so I'm a software engineer. Basically, as an embedded software engineer, more on the embedded side. So embedded device, less smartphones. But anyway, let's go to the next. So if you have any question, if you don't understand what I'm saying, because probably my English is not perfect or something like that, feel free to ask. And also, I have some Italian friends that can translate you, so you can ask your question in Italian, and I will reply, but probably not in Italian, sorry. So let's begin. So generally the context is that you are creating, of course, an application or a service, and nowadays when you create your application or your service, well, always, of course, it depends, but you try to target as much targets and as much OSs as possible. And this is indeed something that is hard to achieve. So you have all the desktop computers, you have all the web interface that you can create, and you have the mobile and touch device, so that includes the smartphones. Today is more or less your fridge, tomorrow maybe your shirt, who knows, well, all these kind of devices that may run on Android. And for that you have, again, some different OSs, so Android, iOS, etc. And so that means basically a lot of time of development, of course. And I think everybody knows the answer to DJI and Qt to that is, well, let's develop a framework that we can use on all this platform and develop ones for all these different targets. So we have just a quick recap. To target desktop and server, you will have dual support for Windows, Linux, Mac. On smartphones, you have Android, iOS, and Windows RT for the tablets, which is in preview release right now. And for the embedded device, you have Windows CE support, Linux, Unix, etc. That's not an exhaustive list. But now, we concentrate for the presentation on Android, of course. So the goal is to, probably I'll make it quick, but to build your code once with Qt. That's Qt event, so we'll talk about Qt. Build your code once and run it on multiple targets, so that will indeed shorter your development time and make the maintainability a lot easier. And that will let you also develop an Android application without Android knowledge, because indeed developing application for Android means you need to know something about it. Leverage all the great Qt features, so that only a few, the databases, the threads, network functionality, etc. And working with a long-living framework, or at least that's what I believe, with a great past and probably next good years ahead. And 6 months cycles of development with big release each 6 months. New supported platforms, etc. So we'll focus now on Android. And when developing your application for Android with Qt, you will support Android from the version 2.3.3, so that API 10. Before that, Qt will not run on your platform, so that's indeed something you have to take into account. The package, the complete package that you can download quite easily is available on Qt project, and so you just have to take the Android package, download it, install it, and you'll be able to work for your Android device. That use inside that you have indeed Qt 5, all the great features of Qt Creator, which is the development environment of Qt to develop for, I would say, all the targets supported, build, deploy, and debug your application. And some tools provided just to let you build for your target, so the tool chain. Some external tools which are needed for your development for Android before being able to make it work. So that's the Android SDK, so the Java development kit to develop on your target. The NDK to be able to run Qt, we'll see that a bit later. Apex and 1.8 or later for all the compilation etc. part, and the JDK version 6 or later. Yeah, probably will see that. So all those tools, after downloading them, will be integrated to your Qt environment. As always, we're using Qt, so things are quite easy to do, and that's a great thing. So if we only connect, let's go ahead and see. We go into the options. We have a nice Android tab, and inside that we have just the location of the SDK, NDK, and GDK. So here is something which don't take time, quite easy to do. But still you have to go through that. The features you get with that Qt and Android is, I would say, the most interesting features you have with Qt 5. So that's creating graphical user interface with widget and with Qt Quick without having the knowledge of the Android platform, which is really great. The gestures support, which is really easy to use with Qt Quick, so the pinch, zoom, pan, etc., whatever. The media player and the video input, so that's taking the input camera, video, and displaying it on your device. Sensors, so the most common, which are the accelerator, gyroscope, light sensor, and magnetometer rotation sensor, and indeed databases, reels, etc. One key feature which is not supported yet is WebKit. Probably that's still an important thing to know, because if you need to display some web page in your Android application, you won't be able to do that with the current state of the Qt development. That's something that, of course, DJI is looking at, but with the latest version, the 5.2, that's not possible. And let's see how to create a new basic, a new project for Android. So when you create your project, basically you have, well, like for any Qt application, several application types that you can choose from. So that's the console native widget and Qt Quick graphical application mostly. So that's the three most important. The first one being the Qt widget, which is at the beginning the most used on desktop devices. And what did I? Yes, of course. So when will you want to use Qt widgets or Qt Quick? Because I guess you will not want to develop a console application for Android. That really doesn't make sense. So for Qt widgets, that can be a choice when you have no OpenGL hardware acceleration. Because now with Qt Quick 2, probably you know that Qt Quick 2 is really based on OpenGL ES acceleration. And if your device running an Android have no such acceleration, the performance you get are, well, quite low compared to what you would expect. So in this kind of situation, you may choose Qt widgets over Qt Quick. The second case is when you probably, if you need for certification, for example, medical, military, or probably military guys don't use Android. Okay, forget that. But some kind of other certifications, Qt native widgets is a lot more easy to certificate for this precise certificate than Qt Quick. And also if you develop desktop-only application, but that's not really the scope of that, to leverage all the widgets that you may have in Qt. In all the other case, well, you use Qt Quick 2, which is indeed the preferred way. So Qt Quick 2 will come with a nice set of gestures handling, animations, etc. I think there was a presentation this morning, so probably now this is something you're familiar with, or maybe before also. Very design-oriented, so that's something that's completely fit with Android. You go for your design, you develop your application with the design and the code, the specific code, the two completely separated. And that's a great thing when developing your application. And it's really easy to use. So very quickly, when you go, okay, so you have your new project window. This is really basic. So you select your application, you go for Qt Quick 2 application, and then you have your project. So what you have in your Qt Quick project, also a bit quickly, is your project file, so your .pro, containing all the information needed for your project, so basically the list of your source files, the use components of Qt, etc. The source files, and your QML and JavaScript files that compose your graphical user interface. So the window is, of course, something like that. We are in Qt Creator, and so I guess you recognize this interface. Now, what's specific to your project is that when you create your application, you will probably skip a step, but you have first to select a kit when building your application. When selecting a kit, you will select the Android kit that you have created, and as soon as you select an Android kit with all the elements that we have configured in the options, it will automatically create Android-specific files for your application to run on Android, because natively your Android device is not going to support the C++ program developed in Qt, okay? So you have to, well, Qt Creator does that for you, but create some kind of bridge to make your application run on your device. This is done automatically, of course. It contains the entry point of the application, which is the Qt activity that we'll see quickly. And so the application will start in this Java file, load your Qt application, and then run on your target. It also contains Ministro that we'll see quickly, which is used to share Qt libraries on your device. You will find also in this file the Android, the manifest of your application. Probably one very interesting element inside that is the permissions. So probably you know that when you write an Android application, you have to manage the permission. When you start an application, the user interface asks you, do you want to let the application do this, this, and this? Well, in that case, if you need special features, you need to add these permissions here, and I will ask the user to agree to do this kind of thing. So don't put things too strange here, probably user won't accept. Okay. Now we're using Qt Quick for your application. So Qt Quick, perfectly designed for Android, of course. So gestures animation that we'll see, which are really easy to use, that there's just nothing to say about it, just so easy. Network transparent, which is really a great thing, so you can target images over network or locally stored in your application or anywhere that will work completely transparently. The sensors that are a great feature of your smartphone. I think you've all tried your smartphone with some an application using accelerometers or something like that. So this is something really easy to develop with Qt. Design oriented and blah 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 blah. Okay, already talked about that a bit. So okay, maybe how many of you have seen the notions of Qt Quick knowledge? Okay, let's say 20% plus 20% of people not raising the hand, that's 40%. Okay, because I will still continue going that a bit, continue on that way. One advantage of Qt Quick is that it will completely separate your application, the graphic part of the application, from the code, the C++ code. And that allows, for example, one thing is that completely change the graphical user interface depending on something in your application. For example, you can just test the resolution and completely change the application, the graphical content depending on that, without having to manage it on the C++ side or without having to manage this big, complicated object. You change the user interface takes the data directly where you have exposed it, and that will work. You access data through, binding and functions, and also you have a small, didn't represent that, but the root context, which is an area in your program, somehow, where you share the data between C++ and QML. And that area is, of course, so accessible from C++ and from the QML. And when you develop your Qt application, you will simply pick something from that context, root context of your application and display it in your user interface. So that's one of the neat, good features of Qt. And so the result is that you have your C++ data, low-level logic on the C++ side. You have your QML and JavaScript files, which contains, I've put some nice little features just to mean, okay, that you have the behavior and the looking, how your application will look in your QML file and not at all in your C++. And JavaScript files which are optional, that you can, well, do computation or whatever you want for the application. And when running it, you will, so your C++ code is compiled into an application, of course, and at runtime, you load your user interface. Which means that, for example, if you want at runtime to download your application from the internet, well, that's not a problem. That's just, you put some URL instead of loading a local file or a resource file, and that will work as is. Here is a very complex example which displays, well, I think, yeah, a white rectangle with hello world written in black. Okay, so that's just to show you that, of course, that's easy to develop, and if you try to run that on your Android, actually it will work. Very strange, but it will work. Probably it will not be accepted on the Android market though, but yeah. So some advices about using Qt. Usually what we do, except if you download your user interface files from the internet, but is that we pack all the resources into a resource file. So that's something you can create directly from Qt, or you create your resource file, you add everything in it, and the advantage of that is that you have no path or access issues. The data is stored inside your executable or inside your package, and you have no problem with the resources you are trying to load. This is really an interesting feature that makes everything work better. One important element is that that's something I've sometimes seen, but for me, QML is not meant to be modified from C++. So when you will create your Android or application, Qt application, you have your C++, you have your QML side, you can share information, you can also modify directly the QML from the C++, but definitely this is not how you will aim at doing, because doing that will completely break the independency between the user interface and the C++. So the recommended way is to just pick your data from the root context, update its values, etc., but not modify directly the QML from the C++, because then if you change your QML, well, your C++ code will not work. And keep your business logic in C++. Yeah, you can create some expression in Qt with JavaScript. The thing is, it will run quite slow because it was not intended to do big computation. If you have something that needs power, or something that you need to reuse in other application or whatever, which is not the user interface, you'll want to keep that on the C++ side. Finally, something interesting, so the sensors and the gestures. Interesting, but probably just really easy to use. So you have, that can be completely managed from the Qt application, actually. That's why it's interesting to use it. And you don't need Android knowledge at all. So just two examples. For example, you have some content and you need to zoom in, zoom out in that content to create a pinch area, which is basically a common Qt type. You put your content, your big image inside, and you can simply zoom in, zoom out with your code. Just this line of code, and it works. So great. And same thing actually for the accelerometer, for example. So we declare an accelerometer element, and you use it, and you're done with that. So you create, for example, we have data rate, which defines how many times per second we check for the accelerometer data. So in this case, we'll update this 2 times per second, we activate it, and on this handler, we will receive the new value of the accelerometer. You simply use reading.x, y, z, etc., and you get your information from the accelerometer. So really no knowledge at all of Android. Probably I can show you that. The thing is that it will run on this device. And despite it has a big screen, I don't think you will see that very clearly. So I don't know. And also the presentation is running maybe a bit short, so I can probably run quickly about it. Do you believe me? Do you believe it works? Because if you believe me, you can skip the next. Okay, you can believe me, it works. Maybe you shouldn't. Okay, so we'll go through usual questions. I think there is another presentation today, so sorry if that's a spoiler. I don't know if it's today or tomorrow. To adapt your content to your screen. So when running it on your Android device, basically you have, of course, different size of screens, and you have to adapt that to create a great user interface. And to do that, you can use this method, which is the screen method on your application. This is sometimes created automatically by Qt. So you have your view, you call the screen method, and it will return information about the screen, okay, of your application. So the height and wide in pixel, and sometimes so you have the physical height and wide of your device. So what you not want is having something like that, like your application in tablet and on smartphone, just the same thing reduced. Okay, of course that will not work because if you have some buttons, that's quite not usable or visible. So a few solutions about that, really quickly, is to use relative size and position. So that's the most obvious one, but also the most limited one. For example, saying my height is equal to for example, the size of my parental window divided by 2. The thing is that, yeah, it will be hard to maintain and quite limited. Also, there is sometimes some performance issue. I mean, that's not the most optimal way of doing it. The other solution is to switch the QML file depending on that size or resolution. That's the most powerful solution because you can just completely overhaul the user interface depending on the size of your screen. But it's a bit more work because you have to maintain different QML file. The automatic layouting elements, so you have the layout row grid, that you just automatically move your elements depending on the size which is assigned. And finally, the anchors, which are, like you say, okay, my button is aligned with this element, and if you say also the right of my button is aligned to something else, then you have a constraint on the size, and you change the size of your button. So that's definitely a very powerful element. Now let's see quickly how to call Java from Qt. Not much time left, I guess. Okay, thank you. So we'll say, okay, let's believe me, sometimes you have to call Java from Qt. No. If you have to call OS-specific functions, if some functionalities are not supported yet by Qt, we'll see an example just right now. And also if you have existing Java code and you want to call that Java code, of course. So there is some case you need that. And the answer is JNI, but that's something completely different from, that's not Qt related. But that JNI framework will allow you to call C++ from Java and also Java from C++, and so that's what we will use. It's contained within what you have installed in the beginning, so you don't have to worry about it. So two ways of doing that. The first is using Qt Android Extra, which is now the best solution with Qt 5.2. And the other one is to manually retrieve a pointer to the Java virtual machine, so you can do that actually. It offers more functionalities, of course, but it's clearly more complicated. And we'll see an example. So we are on the C++ side of our application. We include that element into our application. We create a class that will contain some code we want to write to Java, and we will use Qt JNI classes. So here it is, not very readable, but that's okay. You create, for example, the goal here is to create a notification, an Android notification in your application. So you create a hello Android string that you want to display. From that, you will create an Android DNI object, which is kind of a variable to cross the bridge between C++ and Android. So you convert your string into some object that will cross that bridge. And then you use that very strangely looking function that will actually make a call to a Java file inside your application. We pass it this element, so this Java notification somewhere, I think. Yeah, just right here. Converting it to a Java string. And on the Java side, we have this, which is, so we've created a class with exactly the same name as the C++ class. That's a specific thing, specific to this solution, and also static because we used, call static method. And then we go for this Java small piece of code, which is actually taken from Qt tutorial, I think, yes, or Qt examples. So you can find this one if you look for Android native, I think. You can find back this code and how to do that. And so basically here what we do is we create a builder for the string. We take a pointer to the notification manager and we say, okay, I want to display my notification. We pass it the string that we have built, and then let's go. And so if you have not done any Android development already, you can see that that's quite different from C++ Qt, and probably you want to stick with C++ when you can. No, that will be short. Okay, but definitely this is, you can find this sample on in the example of Qt project, and you can test that. That will display a notification on your phone directly by calling a function which is specific to Android and not yet implemented in Qt, but probably soon. And finally, the deployment that we'll see quickly. You have several ways to deploy, to test your application. Directly deploying it, which is the most convenient when you can connect your device to your computer. So basically, you just do the connection and it will run on your device. And you have also simulators to do that. And finally, to deploy, to give it to your, well, to anyone who wants your application. You can bundle it with Qt libraries, or you can use Ministro, which is an external application running on Android that is used to share Qt libraries across all the Qt applications on your system. So it's a way to save the size, to reduce the size of your application, but the users have to install this application. I go quickly. Okay, if you want to save some space on that, you need people to install Ministro. Not always very convenient. You have the simulator that lets you simulate. That's a great feature actually. That lets you simulate various Android devices. You have the choice between a list, and you can also simulate different size of the screen. So that's really a cool element when it comes to developing and testing your application. So nothing needed, no connection, just running the simulators. I will see if we have time, I will show you. And that's, in the option you can add an Android virtual device. You create your device and then you say, okay, I want to run my program on the virtual Android device. And you have it running. And okay, that's the answer. And finally, so if you want to go for the simple way, you connect your phone to your computer, for example. And when you press run, it will say, okay, I've detected this device, which is compatible, which will be your phone. Do you want to deploy it, the application on it? You say yes, and you're done with the application. And indeed, so that runs on simulators, on your smartphone, and also on the embedded device, which is sometimes something we have done on some other project with Freescale board, of course. So that works for all these situation. And that's a great feature. And so the last slide. Now I think Qt is really a powerful technology. I think people have used it know that you have a lot of things in this library, a lot of features you can leverage, and definitely this is a great framework when it comes to developing applications and nicely written applications. It offers, of course, new opportunity to development because now you can develop your application without having Android knowledge, etc. And of course, we're waiting for more features on Android, more device supported, etc., etc. But definitely something you want to try if you have a smartphone. And that's all for me. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. To all the personnel hosting this event also. Thank you.
If there are any questions, we have.
When you mentioned the sensor, you haven't talked about GPS. There is no support at the moment, or?
Yeah, I doubt about it. Someone know the GPS. I don't. The GPS is supported with 2001 platform. I can't remember if that's on Android. I think not. Not yet, but that's also, of course, definitely something that's, that will come soon because that's an important feature. I don't remember the platform which is supported for the GPS.
Other questions?
Yes. Yeah, it's something you maybe like native Android application. You mean well, you can debug your application. Yeah, you just have you connect your phone and you go for the debug mode, and then you can debug your application with Qt Creator. And for sure, that's a great feature when it comes to the development. Yeah.
We have 5 minutes more. No one? Okay. Many thanks, Adrien.
Thank you very much.